And I hope that there should be better audio on the video recording this time than last time, so for future reference. And thank you. Yeah.
Getting outside interference.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, this time we have the owl, thanks to Pam, Mike, and for Bob's suggestion last week. So yeah, today we're doing the Firewise 101 Renewal Workshop number 2. This is the second one for mostly North County regions. Today's session will focus on the NFPA Firewise renewal application that is due on November 21st. So if you would like to get ahead, start before the holidays, right now is a really good time to get that in. And also to introduce myself, I'm Jennifer Valadez, the project manager for Fire Safe Council, and I host the Firewise 101 sessions every second Wednesday from 2 to 3. If you'd like to join any other sessions or view them online as well. So I just want to go over some housekeeping before we get started. If you are in person, please let us know your contact information to send you the recording and get on our mailing list. As I mentioned, we hold monthly Firewise 101 sessions, which are posted on our YouTube page at FFCMC or at FFC for Monterey County. And today, which is different from our last session last week, I have a how to complete a Firewise USA renewal application. And if you're in person, you have the physical printed copy, but if you're online and would like to view this, I will drop it in the chat there. And I've also sent it out on Monterey Bay Partners Groups IO. And also just to plug our Instagram at firesafe_Monterey. Some upcoming events. Tomorrow is our board meeting at the Cal Fire Dispatch, or you can join on Zoom. Throughout November, there are going to be several events. The wrap from UP Help on Zoom at 1 p.m. on next week on the 4th. On the 5th, San Benito Fire Safe Council will have a general meeting. So if in the Ramos Prunedale area or in San Benito, you can join their kickoff event at the Community Foundation's Epicenter building in person or on Zoom from 2 to 4. Carmel Prepares will have a winter ready event in Carmel. And North Monterey County Firewise, actually this is the Rancho Ramitas Firewise community will be hosting their event on the 12th. And this is a smaller group than last time, so if you have any questions, feel free to just interrupt me, raise your hand, go off camera. And as mentioned, this session will be recorded, so if you're not comfortable being on camera, please turn off your camera. And if you don't want your voice to be recorded either, feel free to drop any questions you have or comments in the chat. And the post-meeting survey, I don't think I have it for this one. Anyway, that's optional. And towards the end, we'll just have like a general Q&A / office hours as Firewise 101 sessions usually go. So quickly going through our agenda, no pre-meeting survey this time, but we'll be going through renewals, what is required of every year, every 3 years, every 5 years, a quick renewal tutorial, step to renewals, and covering some FAQs. So every year for renewals for the Firewise USA application, you are required to host an outreach event. You are also required to track risk reduction investments. This includes time and money spent in your community. At minimum, each site is required an annual investment equivalent to 1 volunteer hour per dwelling unit. So let's say you have 100 dwelling units in your Firewise community, then you will need to record at least 100 hours of work or the equivalent spent in your Firewise community. I also wanted to highlight some wildfire risk reduction activities. This will also show up in your application at the time. I believe it is under the section of educational outreach, what examples are counted for this, such as attending meetings, I know yesterday was the statewide town hall for insurance. That counts as educational event that residents attended, so that hour should count. Volunteer hourly worksheet tracker. This is something that you could send out to your Firewise community and get feedback on to track it and to be able to submit the application in a easier fashion and just going down the line. So here, just name, date, hours worked. For example, if there was a chipping program, the hours spent on collecting all the vegetation to be chipped. For money spent, if you have a landscaper that comes in every 2 weeks, that's also a monetary expense you could track. So I wanted to highlight this tip of saving throughout the year. So you don't really have to wait till near the deadline of November 21st to put in your activities and save it on the portal. So you can save your wildfire risk reduction activities throughout the year and just save it. So then when you're ready to submit that, you have it saved in a log.
Jennifer, this is
So every
Maxine.
3 years is the action plan. And
Jennifer?
Firewise 101 actually did a session on the 3-year action plan if you have specific questions, but your portal should notify you if you are required to submit a new action plan. So make sure to check your Firewise management portal. And if your community action plan is up for renewal, make sure to use the most current template, which is the California required 3-year action plan from CAL FIRE. So this is how it should look like. If you have the old action plan and you are not up for renewal, you could just use that same action plan that you've been using until you are up for that 3rd year for renewal. And for every 5 years, you will need to update your community risk assessment. So again, your portal should tell you when it is time to renew that risk assessment, and it follows the same process as any other risk assessment or your initial risk assessment. So you'll just have to update it with new language and the new information for those 5 years. Again, I wanted to highlight the template used for Firewise since they're very strict on using the templates that they provide. And this is what it should look like. Again, you can contact your local fire district to help them with that. We also have a risk assessment video from Firewise 101 and some tools such as a tally sheet that you could use with your community members to walk around your community and document that to help you fill out the risk assessment. This is just some more information I found online to address any questions that might come up. So if your community is looking to add more neighbors or expand, you will need to update the number of dwelling units across all documents, since that's something that should be consistent across the entire application. And this might trigger a new boundary map to be submitted to the NFPA. And this next item on committee/board members, I've gotten a few questions on how adding and changing the board members. I believe that you have to be a resident leader to change that. And during the time of renewal, you're able to add and change the board members to the Manage Contact tab or section of your portal. Yeah, in the next one, if your resident leader changes, then you can go into the portal and add a new resident leader through the Manage Contacts community on the community dashboard. But I recommend that your Firewise community creates a Gmail account specific for your Firewise community, because if there is a change in leadership, if there's a change in board members and you want access to that portal and want to be able to access it if there is any changes. And our last point, you can skip around your renewal application. There's no need to do it all in one sitting. If you want to save it, you can save it and then close it. If you want to do it all in one sitting, you can just keep on clicking continue until you're done. So on here, I should have this video up. So Raider Marks has a great, just quick 5-minute tutorial and a walkthrough for the annual renewal tutorial, which I can play today. We have some time. Let's see here. Let me know if you can hear on my end. You can't really.
We boost the sound, or is it just not coming through?
Just don't want to have any echo. So I think usually the owl has the speaker, right? So if not, this video is also on the Fire Adapted Big Sur Resource Hub, which I can skip through and we can look at it. Oh, actually, I don't know.
Can you play the video off of that?
Yes.
Okay.
I can play it here, it's just not sharing on, or the audio isn't on the speaker. So I know he's talking through this section.
Yeah, if you see if it's running, yeah.
Yeah.
You got subtitles.
Yeah, let me.
Those guys.
Can you ask them if they can hear it?
Yeah, if anyone's on Zoom, can you hear the video that's playing right now?
No. No.
I don't think the owl has volume on it.
Okay, so Jackie says no, she can't hear the video.
Okay. Well, this is an issue in the last session as
All right,
well.
well, we'll have to fix it. I wouldn't waste anybody's time with this then.
Yeah, well, sorry about that. I'll find the video now, so you'll have it. It's pretty easy to find. The Fire Adapted Big Sur. Through here. Firewise tab. And it should be here. On the second segment, the Firewise application tutorial and then the renewal tutorial. And it just goes through the portal as well. So after that, I wanted to highlight the handout. And here it is published on Google as well. So this is sort of a breakdown of the steps to the renewal application. So what you should expect when you log into your portal, what you need when you log in, and kind of step by step, and maybe some questions that you might have as well. So if you are the resident leader, you can log into the Firewise USA portal. If you encounter any issues, and you can redirect, remove any cookies from your computer and then try again. If you have to be the resident leader to log in. If you have to change leaders, please get the previous leader to log in and change that ownership. So once you log into the portal, the first step and you start a renewal application, it should be to update the site contact information. And this is mostly to either mail in any materials that your Firewise community might want, your resident leader as well, and all that information, who your regional coordinator is, who your state representative is. This step mostly you most likely will just continue on to the next step, which is overview. Update it as you need. So this section is where you would update the dwelling count or boundary map if it has changed over the last year. Then when you move on, you should encounter the state requirements. So for the state of California, this just means that you know and are aware of the California 3-year action plan form that you have to fill out for California and CAL FIRE. So that should just be an easy checkbox and move on. And then it should go into the risk assessment portion. So this is where it will indicate if you need to update this every 5 years. If you do, then fill out a new one and insert the new risk assessment. But if it does not have to be updated, then just click the reuse current risk assessment and move on to the next step. This next step would be updating and reviewing any board member / committee information. So just review the contacts, make sure that the emails are up to date. And this is where I've gotten some questions on the board / committee information. So in your renewal application, you are able to change board members. I'm not too sure about otherwise. I think throughout the year, your resident leader can add another resident leader, but I'm not too sure about the board committee / committee. And then after you've updated and reviewed and verified all the board meeting committee information, this is your action plan step. So the renewal application will let you know if you will need to update this form. So if your action plan is not due for renewal, just upload the action plan your community is currently using. Even if it is the older template, because CAL FIRE had recently changed that about a year or so ago. So if it's the old template and you do not need to renew it, just reuse the current action plan. If your action plan is due for renewal, which is every 3 years, you must update it using the new California 3-year action plan template, which is available on CAL FIRE's website. So that is the readyforwildfire.org under the action plans segment. So I'll just find it here. If you want to find on your own, if you're missing the link or so, just go to Ready for Wildfire. Just show here, so preparing yourself. Strategies, home hardening. There are wildfire communities. Under the Firewise recognition. Step 3, can create and maintain a wildfire action plan. And it'll be linked here if you're having trouble finding it. And through this form, you're able to fill it out as it is on the PDF. If you have trouble with it, it does not save when you are on the tab. So feel free to download it basically each time. This format's a little bit tricky. So if you want to convert it to a Microsoft Word, it might shift a little bit if you want to print it out, fill it out, and then scan and upload. That's another hack that some Firewise people have done in the past. So after you've either reused your current action plan or updated it, you will move on to the educational outreach portion. So this refers back to any wildfire risk reduction activities that your community has done. If you've hosted the outreach event, if you've done the May Wildfire Preparedness Day, etc., then this is where you would click all the appropriate activities that your Firewise has done. Then moving on to the next step, this is where you will log in any vegetation removal. So record any vegetation removal and add notes for community programs. By just following the directions through the portal. So in the comment section is where you could add activities such as goat grazing, or I think here I put, time spent on filling the green waste cans and curbside pickup can be entered under landscaping 0 to 100 feet from the base of dwelling unit. Hours related to meetings, presentation, program administration, home site visits, such as the defensible space assessments, will be recorded under miscellaneous. And this is also where the list of time and expense examples is embedded in the portal. If you have trouble finding the link, it should be on the renewal application. And that would be the last step before you are able to review and verify all the sections before submitting and just double check your work. So I wanted to touch on some ideas for renewing your 3-year action plans. This is where there has been some kickback in the past. And if you've already done your initial 3-year plan, you might be wondering, what else can I add to it? What can I do to refresh it? And I got some ideas from the South Bay Firewise partners. So I think that includes Santa Clara and Santa Cruz counties. So if you want to add yourself to that group's IO, you can. I get a lot of good information from that group. So they had said writing a evacuation plan or a written evacuation plan or an emergency communication agreement, like a call tree, for example, publishing a quarterly newsletter or a website. Fire Safe Council has a newsletter template and tutorial, free to use for all Firewise communities, also available on our YouTube page. You can encourage the use of Alert Monterey and the Know Your Zone. D&M, or the Department of Management, has plenty of handouts for this that you can hand out to your community members. For 2026, it is possible to send a couple community members or the resident leaders to the CAL FIRE DSA training. It is a free 2-day, usually on the weekend, training offered by CAL FIRE for residents or leads of Firewise communities to attend. You could have a pile burn or prescribed burn. This would be in collaboration with the Central Coast Prescribed Burn Association or the UC Cooperative Extension. You could also have a community member attend the free about 10 to 12-week coalitions and collaboratives community wildfire mitigation best practices training. This is a more long training versus the DSA, but it might be good to get some skills. It's all virtual. I think they have the short course as well, and free for community members. Also encouraging residents to consider fuel reduction in the first 5 feet around the home. So this is where some of the language on Zone 0 in the next year will come into play. Currently in your 3-year action plans, there is a section that requires you to acknowledge the Public Resource Code 4291, which states that defensible space is law. So kind of avoid the term defensible space in general. Adding fuel mitigation or adding vegetation removal instead of defensible space, or being more focused on educating people on defensible space versus implementing it, not a phased-in approach as they put it in the application. So this is usually where I have the frequently asked questions. I have put it in on paper for you all to reference. So here are some of them that we get. So the first one is, do you record the prior year's activities after recognition? Say you were recognized in 2024, or you're recognized in 2024 and you're renewing for the first time this year. Do you need to record the work done between 2024 and the start of 2025? And generally, yes, it is recommended to report all applicable activities. So Firewise communities are advised to record the activities after being acknowledged, and they're following renewal in the next calendar year. So NFPA generally works on a calendar year schedule, but as mentioned in our last meeting last week, fuel reduction does not always follow this. So let's say you have a pile burn in December. That's a great community outreach tool and a great event to include in your annual renewal application, but it's not in the calendar year. I would recommend to just add it into your application, just kind of record what's appropriate to keep your recognition. Another question that's come up in the past is, how do we know when our action plan or risk assessment needs updating? So just check your portal, your management portal, for the renewal timing. check over the renewal application when it becomes available. It should tell you when you click through it. There was another one I encountered about if 5-year renewals are different in any way. And no, they follow the same process. But if your community needs to update the risk assessment or action plan, ensure that those documents are updated, that you do your risk assessment with your board members or community members or a fire authority, and just get it updated in your renewal application. And this next question is what I referred to with the Public Resource Code 4291. So what does a phased approach to defensible space avoided mean? And this refers to the California 3-year action plan question or check mark that you'll need to fill out. And it generally just means the compliance with California law, Public Resource Code 4291, which requires defensible space at all times. So in your 3-year action plan, make sure the language indicates that your community is already in compliance with PCR 4291. Next question we've encountered, do I need to update the dates on my 3-year action plan each year? If your action plan is not due for renewal, just upload the action plan your community is already using. Even if it's the older one, just reuse the current action plan, no need to update. But if your action plan is due for renewal, which is every 3 years, you must update it, and within the process of updating it, you change the date / the years on that. Next question is, when should the renewal application be submitted? And this one's a little bit long-winded, but it is the due date is November 21st, but it is recommended by the NFPA to submit closer to the deadline to allow for more accurate documentation of activities. But if your community is not planning any chipping, vegetation removal, outstanding outreach events, or anything that might be within that renewal application, or you want to highlight that in your application, then feel free to just upload it earlier around this time, around the first week of November, in October. If you submit too early, let's say in like July, then your application will automatically be just sent back to you and rejected. You can still submit later, closer to the renewal deadline, but just that one in July would just not be valid. As mentioned, the NFPA works on a calendar year schedule, so submitting too early just implies that the information is not as accurate as it can be or up to date. As you know, for example, it would be if you submitted closer to the deadline. And the last one, I just wanted to reiterate that from my knowledge, you can update the community board member information through the managed contacts if you are a resident leader. But please contact the Firewise team at firewise@nfpa.org for portal specific questions. If you have trouble with the action plan, they should be able to help you, some tech heavier questions, because I don't have access to your portal, and there have been issues in the past. Right, so those are kind of the last points I wanted to touch on. I hope this clarifies any questions, helps kind of alleviate some pressure of the renewal process. But if you have any questions or are on Zoom, if you want to take yourself off mute or put them in the chat, feel free to do so. Or in the room, if we have any questions or comments, you can address them now, or yeah.
I have one. Hi, Pam Peck, also with the Fire Safe Council for Monterey County, and Jennifer alluded to the fact that defensible space through PRC code 4291 is actually law. And therefore, you are not creating defensible space. Theoretically, it should exist around your properties right now. So what you are doing, and be sure to refer to it as maintaining defensible space not putting it in. You can increase it. You can enlarge your 100 feet to 200 feet. 100 feet of defensible space is the minimum amount of work that you should be doing. But be sure not to say that you are implementing defensible space, because it is law and it should be done. Just for clarity.
What about the 0 to 5 zone, which is technically a law, but it's not enforced yet because the State Board of Forestry didn't have regulations on it?
Right.
It seems like you could, write things in there that say, I'm trying to comply with a moving target.
Yeah.
That is a
Yeah.
difficult question for that very reason, is there's so many variants, and as I mentioned earlier to you privately, was that even the fire authorities, different districts are responding to that question differently. So the point is that you want to be as ready as possible, as fire safe as possible. Your property should be cleared to the best of your abilities within the defensible space guidelines. And you should, where you can, harden your home to the best of your ability, not all at once, but bit by bit. So awareness is really the most important thing, and managing it as you move forward. It will eventually become enforced. I think they're still looking at 2, possibly 3 years, but you should be prepared. And that's what we are looking to do now.
Yeah. There's another question in the chat that says, could you explain how to estimate the green waste removed by a community without having each homeowner to tally their own? So I'm just assuming it's the bins, and in that case,
So I think there is I think Waste Management can give you a capacity on the bins. How many potential square feet, tons, whatever. So you can count your bins and that would be accepted. I think if you're looking for large piles that you're putting up on the side of the road for your contractors to chip, they pretty much know what the capacity of their chipping trucks would be. So if it's half full, they can tell you it's X number of tons. If it is full, X number of tons, and you can use those numbers. And I came from Cheryl. Cheryl, I'm not sure that totally answered that question. You could measure cubic yards, but that's a little more difficult. Best
Just
guess.
from a Google search, it says the standard capacity for a green waste bin in Monterey County is 64 gallons.
Yeah.
And you can do gallons to cubic yards, I think is what. So 1 would be 0.3.
Liz Chandler's. That's in. There's a fire in the roads.
In aromas?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
Highway
so
101
it's
is
my-
San Juan Road. My phone. Was pretty crazy too.
Any other questions?
I don't see any more questions in the chat, but sure, I think you reached out to me through email, and we could see through the green waste recovery how big the bins were and the capacity for that, and if you would say like every once a week for X amount of weeks, this many at each dwelling unit, you could probably make a bulk estimated calculation to see how much was removed.
Oh, I don't have any problem with the green waste. Yeah, the green waste bins aren't. Yeah, it's that because
we can't hear you in the room.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I think we can hear through. Here, let's see.
Okay, I can't turn it on. I'll just get the.
It might echo if I turn this on.
Try it.
Yeah, I do hear it echoing. Does it echo on your end, Cheryl?
It's starting to now. We can always chat offline. We just live in a very rural area where most of the green waste that we're removing doesn't go into a bin. It's hauled away and chipped, and so we can chat offline.
Yeah, I think that might be
Question.
our
See if we
best
figure it out.
approach if it's in a rural community to see how we could best estimate that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for your question. Let's go. Any more questions from the group online? I know last week we got into a conversation about Zone Zero that is ongoing, so I recommend getting on the Board of Forestry and Fire Protections mailing list and staying up to date for your community. I try to send out some notifications when I can, but not always up to date, as much as the organizations themselves is. So, if there are no more questions, then I will stop recording and this video can be made available offline and on YouTube. Feel free to contact me between now and the renewal submission date, November 21st, just to reiterate. You can email me at genv.fscmc@gmail.com and I'll try my best to get back to you within, the few days after. So yeah, thank you all for joining today. Yeah, and good luck on getting the renewal submitted. Thank you for doing what you're doing in your communities.
Right.